Yo, what's poppin' everybody? It's your boy Modern Fiction here today with another video, One Piece chapter 1017 review. This was another great chapter. I don't think anyone expected a crazy reveal like that during the midst of battle. Oda keeps on delivering for real. I know a lot was covered this chapter, but let's go over this significant info dump we got first. There's a lot to unpack, so let's get into it. Diving into the end and discussing those last panels, Oda keeps dropping bombs we don't expect. In this case, adding some more information to the lore of the Gomu Gomu No Mi, the paramecia type devil fruit that is currently being used by the main character of the series, Monkey D. Luffy, granting him the properties of rubber, therefore allowing him to be a rubber human. Alright, so getting into it, given the current data and information we have available in the story thus far, there are still a number of possibilities regarding this scenario, and that's why it's still open to speculation and even theorization. So I'll try to structure my thought process as best as I can. First and foremost, going over what we know definitively for starters, is the fact that 12 years ago, from current day Wano, or if you prefer 10 years before the time skip, Who's Who we were introduced to as a member of the Tobi Roppo and Kaido's crew, the Beast Pirates, was a member of CP9 and was guarding a government ship with the Gomu Gomu No Mi on board. We also know that 12 years ago, this devil fruit comes into the possession of the one and only red-haired Shanks. And of course, we all know Luffy ate this devil fruit 12 years ago at the age of 7, whether you read it in chapter 1 or watched it in episode 4. So these three things are the only events that we definitively know happened 12 years ago in the One Piece verse from the current timeline. But now getting into why the higher ups in the world government wanted this particular devil fruit in their custody. In my estimation, the previous user of the Gomu Gomu No Mi to Luffy must have been a prominent figure in the One Piece verse, such that his or her existence was a threat to the balance of the world government and celestial dragon system, presumably being strong enough to have mastered this devil fruit to its full potential and capabilities, therefore making the world government realize its overall potential threat level. But now getting into who could have been the previous user or a previous user of Luffy's devil fruit, in my estimation, there are two legends that we currently know of. Oda can introduce more later on, of course, that we don't know definitively whether or not they had a devil fruit, and obviously what their devil fruit was if they had one. Those two legends being Rox D. Zebek and Gold D. Roger. Starting off with Roger, even this deep into the story, it's still uncertain whether or not he had a devil fruit. It is possible that Roger had the Gomu Gomu No Mi, and that's why the world government wanted to seize the fruit for themselves, as we've seen them try to destroy any potential connection Pirate King had that was within their means and strength, even going so far as to executing women and children. So if he did have a devil fruit, it could have been a top priority. One notion against this though is that if Roger had the same devil fruit as Luffy, someone would have or should have stated it by now. There's been a number of instances in the story where a character who's a prominent figure from the old era would have had the opportunity to easily say something. Like at Marineford for an example, where there's a fair amount of top tiers. In my opinion, it's not out of character for someone like Whitebeard to not say anything, because he even kept Ace being Roger's son a secret. Same with Garp, of course. But it would be in character for someone like Buggy to have stated it, whether it be in East Blue or in the Summit War saga, because that was literally his captain's fruit and he would have taken note of it. Even Sengoku might have stated it in his speech when he was declaring, "Oh, this is Dragon's son." Someone could have easily been like, "Yo, look, that kid has the same devil fruit as the king of the pirates," because that's how clouded he was and Luffy will be. It could be symbolic if the past and future Pirate King had the same devil fruit powers, but it's also possible Roger was just a hockey master and specialist. The only time we've seen him fight so far was in the Odin flashback versus Primebeard, and there he showcased his advanced Conqueror's hockey. So it's possible he only had all three types of hockey maxed out to its full stats, along with the voice of all things, which still has to be fleshed out as a concept going into endgame. Moving on to Rox D. Zebek, it is possible Rox was a previous user of this devil fruit, and it follows why the world government would want to wipe this devil fruit's existence off the map, like they did with the God Valley incident and the legacy of Rox himself. Which is crazy because this would just add to the magnitude of the potential threat level they saw him as. It's also a more plausible possibility in the sense that it would make sense why no one in the One Piece verse has noted anything about Luffy's devil fruit, Because as we've seen with Sengoku preaching to the young soldiers, rocks was wiped from the history books, and only those left from the old era truly know about him to that degree. It's also possible for him to have had the Yami Yami no Mi, Blackbeard's devil fruit, and used that ability to absorb another devil fruit, and him have had both devil fruits, because now they have both been highlighted for their notoriety, which I'll get into a little bit later. But moving on to another possibility, I want to talk about another legend who isn't a pirate from the modern era, but is regarded as the GOAT of the verse, Joy Boy, the king of the ancient kingdom himself. There is a decent possibility that Joy Boy was a previous user of the Gomu Gomu No Mi, and this would tie into a lot of the lore, starting with the fact that if this truly was the case, then of course the world government, more specifically the Gorosei, even more specifically Im-sama, would want this piece of property in their hands and not out left open in the world. We've already seen Im-sama have the giant straw hat, which was presumably the original Joy Boys, in storage at Marijua in the Holy Land. So it's very reasonable for him or her to want Joy Boy's devil fruit in their possession as well, either to keep it hidden away or to let Vegapunk study it and apply the lineage factor to reproduce the devil fruit. Anything is possible, the way the Celestial Dragons and the world government schemes. Especially if Im-sama is Joy Boy's original rival. As we know, Joy Boy was the king of the ancient kingdom, and the 20 kingdoms formed an alliance now known as the world government to defeat and overthrow their dynasty, with the rulers of those kingdoms becoming the Tenryubito, the rulers of the new world, with only the Nefertari family saying no and staying in the quote-unquote lower world. But yeah, fun fact, if this is the case, even ores with Luffy's shadow would have been foreshadowing for Joy Boy having the Gomu Gomu no Mi, literally a giant with rubber powers that can stretch. Ores was known as the continent puller as well. And of course, this assumes Joy Boy is a giant based on the straw hat size. This could also be part of the overarching narrative, as maybe the one who eats the Gomu Gomu no Mi will inherit the will of Joy Boy, and that's why once Luffy ate the devil fruit and said quote-unquote the same words as Roger, Shanks gave him the straw hat because at that point he knew he would be the one to carry on Roger and Joy Boy's will and fulfill the promise to bring the dawn to the new world. Like Shanks said, he bet his arm on the new era. I know some people could have a potential problem with this narrative if Joy Boy, Roger, and Luffy all had the devil fruit and Luffy is destined to do all of this, kind of like in Naruto with Ashura, Hashirama, and Naruto, and the concept of reincarnation and destiny. But we just have to have faith in Oda. I don't think he'll betray the core theme of the series, man's dream, flow of time, inherited will. At the end of the day, Luffy is still the embodiment of freedom. In my personal opinion, it would be cool if Joy Boy had the devil fruit that Luffy does, but Roger didn't. Because we've already seen characters say they have similarities mentally in terms of their willpower or mental fortitude, like Rayleigh, but this would be a key difference in their powers physically, and one contrast between the past and future Pirate Kings. Moving on, let's talk about Shanks, because there's a lot of speculation to be had there as well. The closer we get to Endgame, the more mysterious this guy becomes. The man who's touted as a pacifist, and in my opinion, the gatekeeper to the One Piece in the new era, just like Whitebeard was in the golden era of piracy. Right now, he's all about balance, having the foresight to predict events that cause cataclysmic shifts in the verse beforehand. Even though it's not definitive, we can infer that Shanks and the red-haired pirates raided the government ship and defeated Who's Who. Oda stated in the SBS that Lucky Roo was the one who stole the devil fruit. Theoretically, it could have been from another ship, but the logical inference is that they took it from the world government ship. We know Shanks wasn't in his prime, as he only became a Yonko 6 years ago, and this event occurred 12 years ago from the current day in the storyline. But it stands to reason Shanks could have watched Who's Who, and even his commanders should have been able to defeat him, given that he wasn't in his prime either. Also note that this is a world government ship, as Cypherpole is literally an agency that does the world government's bidding. Therefore, there was no admiral on board, as it wasn't a marine fleet. That would have made the fight a much higher difficulty, especially considering it's a pre-prime Shanks. But still a Shanks who is prominent enough to have had daily duels with Hawkeye's Mihawk and be able to traverse the seas from the Grand Line to the East Blue with relative ease. We know you have to be hard-bodied enough to travel through the calm belt without the Kairoseki or Sea Stone that the Navy uses. Also taken, Who's Who went to the have been impoed down for failing his mission, whereas Rob, Lucci, and Kaku got off scot-free for losing the stronghold of Venice Lobby, one of the world government's main 3 islands in the Grand Line. Even though they were on the run for a bit, if you read the cover stories, they still ended up getting promoted to CP0 post-time skip. This highlights the magnitude of the mission and the importance or value the higher-ups have on this devil fruit, the Gomu Gomu No Mi. Which is funny because everyone in the community usually downplays this fruit, but it's facts as inherently the fruit is not hacks or overpowered, but if you're a fighting genius like Luffy, you can maximize its potential depending on your creativity. There's a lot of useful utilities being rubber provides. Like there's even speculation the world government wanted the Gomu Gomu No Mi to use its awakening to be a counter to the Goro Goro no Mi's quakes. This could be a possibility as Whitebeard was heralded as the world's strongest man and deemed the biggest threat to the world government system. Once they had it in their possession, they also could have let Vegapunk study it and maybe even apply a lineage factor towards it. At the end of the day, this is the devil fruit of the main character, so we know its importance. But why did Shanks obtain the devil fruit? Did he want it for himself since he was still on the come up? Did he want to ensure Roger's legacy would be in good hands by choosing who inherits it? He also has a potential connection to Rox, as he could be his son or the son of a celestial dragon that was saved and taken in by Roger after the God Valley incident, as Shanks is 39 years old and the God Valley incident occurred 38 years ago. And this would be why he has the clout to enter Marijua, talk to the Gorosei, stop the war in Marineford, especially if Imsam has Rox himself, as we know they have the same ambition to be king of the world. Shanks could be carrying Rox's will literally and Blackbeard carrying his will figuratively, adding weight as to why these two are bound by fate and destined to clash. Blackbeard's chilling on Beehive Island like Rox once was, recruited the world's worst criminals like Rox did. His ship is literally called the Saber of Zebek. Him not being able to sleep could also point to Rox being in his head like Sinbad and David from Magi. Rox showing BB what to do, like join Whitebeard's ship, get his devil fruit, read the encyclopedia, which I'll get into, etc. So speaking of Blackbeard, I want to go over what we know about devil fruits so far. The majority of people assume that once a devil fruit user dies, it respawns to the nearest fruit, like we saw with Smiley and Punk Hazard, but this isn't always necessarily the case. Just one possibility. Going into more detail, we know based off of Blackbeard's research, reading the Devil Fruit Encyclopedia, that there were pictures of each model contained in it. That's how we knew that the Devil Fruit Thatch found on Whitebeard's ship was the Yami Yami no Mi, the Devil Fruit that grants its user the powers of darkness. With this known fact, it can be logically inferred that each devil fruit at the very least has to reincarnate or respawn into the same type of fruit. This would be to ensure that the data in the book is valid. For an example, an apple always reincarnates in an apple, a banana, etc, etc. Or else, the picture of the model could be false if this wasn't the case. And then obviously the fruit itself can conform to the nature of the devil fruit's powers. Like we see with Law's Opi Opi no Mi, the fruit took the shape of a heart. So this could also be a reason for why Smiley's devil fruit reincarnated to the nearest fruit, because it was an apple and inherently that fruit might have been an apple as well. This could also be the reason as to why it took the world government decades to find the Gomu Gomu no Mi if Rox or Roger were previous users, as we know Rox died allegedly at the God Valley incident 38 years ago, and Roger died at his execution in Logtown 24 years ago from the current day in the storyline. So if they didn't have the means to find it, it's plausible why it took so long if it respawned in another fruit across the globe, and the One Piece verse is huge. Especially with Rox, because God Valley was wiped off the map, so it could have went anywhere, whereas Roger was executed by the world government and the navy, so they could have just had a fruit ready if they wanted it to respawn to the nearest one. I don't think we'll get devil fruits truly fleshed out and explained until we meet Vegapunk, but you never know because we're already getting info dumps we never thought we would in Wano. But yeah, to go over the rest of the chapter quickly, I know I focused a lot on Luffy's devil fruit, but that was the main piece of information in this chapter. We finally see Luffy and Zoro getting healed as they have to get back up and defeat Kaido 2v1 in my estimation. Luffy's getting CPR done on him by some of the Heart Pirates members. And Zoro's finally about to get healed by Chopper, who's going to administer the super recovery drug from Zou that the Minks use. And it's crazy because this was foreshadowed from the Zou arc when Zoro noted that the Minks were recovering very fast after Jack's raid and attack on Shueisha. So it's only fitting he's getting it now. And this will add to his mental fortitude, tenacity, and even durability feats. As the doctor states, this will heal you temporarily, but you will suffer twice more. So he's basically gonna feel 2 times the pain of the damage he sustains. But yeah, that's it for the video, y'all. Let me know what y'all think is the historical significance or importance of Luffy's devil fruit, who the previous or prior users of the Gomu Gomu No Mi were, if anyone. There's a lot of possibilities for. Side note, taking how crazy this review was, that no one is really disappointed that we didn't get Yamato vs Kaido in this chapter. Like, subscribe, comment if you rated the video, if you enjoyed it, turn on post notifications. Modern Fiction out.